Hello, everybody, and welcome to the BYTES event. We are very grateful and thankful that you have been able to join us in this great discussion. I am so excited about this event. We have been anticipating this event for about 6 months. And why this event is so critical is it's really a group of minds and awesome organizations that are here to help us. To really grow the BYTES programs. So I'm getting a bit of an echo, so I apologize for that. I just threw my phone at the bottom there. So I'm excited about this lineup. I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about today. So we wanted to start on time because we have a jam-packed agenda. And just to get started, here's our agenda. It's 3 basic areas that we want to cover today. We have a program introduction, so we're going to talk a little bit about BYTES. And we also have some amazing guest speakers that are going to talk about their programs. And then we have a message from the mayor that we'd like to play for you that's really showing his support for what we're trying to do here this evening. And at last but not least, we're going to have a panelist discussion, and we're going to have some key questions and answers. And we're going to hear from our key speakers about why they are involved in this initiative. So first of all, I want to thank you for taking this time to be a part of this event. Now, this event is being recorded, so it will be available for on demand afterwards, okay? And another thing as well is we're gonna have some post surveys that we'd like you to participate in, and we really wanna keep the dialogue open. So we just really encourage you to participate and to follow up with us, or we will follow up with you. So just moving right along, we're going to start with program introductions. And we're going to start with the BYTES team. So with the BYTES team, we've got some key members that are on the call. So on this call, we have a mixture of program leaders, program people who are interested in starting their own program, but we also have mentors. So with our team, we've got a mixed bag on our team as well. So we are going to start with introductions of our team. So we're going to start with Marguerite Fleming. So Marguerite Fleming, can you come off mute and help us to introduce yourself?
Great, thank you. I'm excited to be part of this initiative. We're excited to see how we can bring more Black youth into the science disciplines. I have a background in the academic world, working with academics and working in the area of innovation, and I recognize that this was a big gap for our youth. And we all are coming from different backgrounds, but we all have the same heart and motivation, which is to see more of our kids achieve their dreams in the STEM disciplines. So we're here together to bring this group together and to do this work. And we're excited to be part of it.
Great, thank you, Marguerite. And next we have Frances Jeffers, who's doing some great community work. So I'm going to allow you, Frances, to introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening to everybody, and thank you for joining, and thank you to the incredible panel for the launch of BYTES. It's a real honor and privilege to continue to work in this space of STEM promotion and working in collaboration with various community partners and partners from various institutions. There's a lot of work to be done, and I think because this is our Canada, a very diverse and inclusive Canada, and that's the role that we want to play, and bringing more people into the space, especially people of African descent and our young people. So it is an honor and privilege to participate in this evening.
Great, thank you, Frances. And next we have William Lavarde. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is William Lavarde. I am here because, frankly, there's not enough people of color, and there's not enough, there's not enough Black people, there's not enough Latinos, there's not enough minorities in the engineering field. And I think that my contribution to BYTES is to increase the number of people of minorities within the engineering field.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, William. And William's being a little bit modest. There's some programs that he's been working on. William is actually a colleague of mine at SAP, and he has some robotic programs that he's been working with the youth. Myself, I have worked for SAP, but I also have a passion for Black youth because I really want to see the pipeline of Black youth involved in the STEM disciplines. I want to see that grow and blossom because it's been my career for the last 25 years, and I really want to pour back into my community and really participate and support the organizations that are doing this great work. So that's what we're all about. We're all about the young people. So thank you very much again for my team on the BYTES team. And we're just going to talk a little bit about the program. So the program is really broken out into 3 main areas. It's really about collaborating and building a relationship with other STEM organizations so that we can have a greater impact. And that's what we're all about today, talking about the different programs and how we can join together to be stronger. And the other part of our organization is really about capacity building and building a common platform so that when organizations like the ones that we're going to hear today are looking for mentors, or they're looking for resources, or they're looking for a collaboration program where they need speakers, or when they're looking for parents and students to participate in their programs, that's where we really stand strong with them to support them and to get them the resources that they need. And then last but not least, joint funding, working together, maybe on an application, or maybe you need a sponsorship letter, or maybe you need something, some sort of consulting on how to get the right funding. We can connect you with the right organizations. That's really what we're about. We're about organizations that are helping our young people. And we are passionate about that. We all have a background and a passion and a community heart where we want to support these organizations that are going to present to you today. So again, very exciting. So we are going to continue with the dialogue, and I'm going to ask for Cheryl to come on and get herself off mute and present her slide presentations. Are you ready, Cheryl?
Yes, I am.
Great, you're on.
Thank you for having me here this evening. I'm so excited about the prospects of working with everyone to ensure that our Black kids have an opportunity to get into the STEM careers and studies. We work towards improving the life outcomes of Black youth, and that comes with developing them in leadership and also to education. So we've been working in the educational field to support them in these areas. And a few years ago, we realized that they're underrepresented in STEM careers and STEM studies, and they're not at the STEM table. So we have a cultural affirmation and sense of belonging, because we want to say to them, it is important to let them know that they belong in these disciplines. They belong in well-funded schools. They belong in robotics. We are the only robotics team in Canada to enter a competition with First Robotics Canada. We teach them how to code. They belong in these spaces. They're culturally affirming spaces, so their unique needs are met and are addressed. So we say to them, you belong. So therefore, we are preparing them for their future. And as we look at it right now, their future is bright. The fact that they are going to be well prepared. From the robotics team, we have about 4 kids who are studying engineering. The students are coding for games and applications and coding robots. So I am so excited about the fact that, you know, we can express this and extend this to all the students in the GTA.
Great, thank you. Did we cover all of your slides?
I just went through in a nutshell.
Great, awesome, awesome. That is great. So next we have Lisa Cole. Lisa, are you ready to present your slides?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Very excited. Thank you for having me join you today. So I just want to mention here that the Lassonde School of Engineering at York University is actually the home of K2I Academy. K2I stands for Kindergarten to Industry. It's an innovative ecosystem of science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM educators, thought leaders, and partners like the BYTES Network, focused on bringing equity-focused STEM experiences to youth, educators, and communities. The K2I Academy designs innovative programs that seeks to address systemic barriers to STEM post-secondary pathways, enabling students who are underrepresented in STEM, including women, Black, and Indigenous youth, to explore and access various opportunities. The K2I Academy is committed to building long-term and really critically sustainable engagements with diverse, innovative partners to co-create and work with to create these equity-focused programs. If I could move to the next slide. We know that we face complex problems in society. And in order to address these complex problems in society, we need to have diverse perspectives involved in the solutioning of addressing these problems. So we are interested in building networks, working with the public education sector. We are already moving forward with building partnership agreements with GTA school boards to strengthen our ability to innovate programs. We are working to navigate the complexities of the public education system by finding unique spaces between, where we can come together to dismantle and tackle some of the most persistent challenges that have continued to historically push people out of STEM career pathways. We talk about a leaky pipeline, but I am convinced that it is not passively leaky. We actually have pumps and filters pushing certain people out of that system. We will build opportunities for STEM education research to strengthen our ability to address these systemic challenges. We are a post-secondary institution grounded in research. We need data to inform the future we wish to co-create together. I can move to the next slide. So we're still very new. K2I Academy was launched in just last year, May of 2020, but we've already proceeded to create some innovative programs. For example, currently we have the Helen Carswell STEAM program for Black and Indigenous youth, partnered with the York Region District School Board, and I'm thrilled to have the BYTES Network also working with us to ensure that the program design and delivery also includes members from the Black community. We currently have 25 grade 10 and 11 students hired for part-time work, working 9 hours a week in the evening on Wednesdays and on Saturdays, working on research projects, hired as research assistants. And because we've partnered with York Region District School Board, they are also working towards earning a high school credit, a cooperative education credit. So, programs like this is not possible without generous donations. So I just want to mention here, the Carswell Family Foundation is a key contributor to enabling this kind of work. I would say that this is the beginning of our journey for K2I Academy, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate with many of the organizations that the BYTES Network holds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. That was awesome. That was inspiring. And I really love the collaboration and the work that you're doing. That is fantastic. Next, we have a young lady. I met Irene about 1.5 years ago. I'm very excited about her program as well. So Irene, are you ready to speak?
Yes, I'm ready.
Great. Go right ahead, Irene.
Hi, everyone. My name is Irene Duakesi, and I'm the founder and executive director of Rising STEM. And so Rising STEM is a grassroots organization. We have a mission to level the playing field for Black youth by breaking down barriers to higher education and STEM career pathways, by providing resources, opportunities to enhance well-being, leadership, technical skills, ensuring that youth are equipped for success in the digital society. And so our target group is Black youth, high school students specifically, so those 13 to 18 years old. And our target focus was the Etobicoke-Rexdale area, but since we've transitioned online, we support youth across the GTA. And currently we're funded through the Ontario Trillium Foundation and trusteed by St. Stephen's, which is now part of the neighborhood group. So Rising STEM was established in 2019 of September, so we're about 1.5 years old. So we first started out as a 12-week program at the Etobicoke YMCA. And so we had a series of coding workshops, science research workshops, and wellness as well. We took them to different field trips like the Move the Dial conference, BAT policy conference, and this program was supported by the City of Toronto's Identify and Impact program. And then when COVID hit, we kind of stopped doing our programming, but we came back in the summer with the Youth Innovation Day event, which was with SAP Canada. So we had Christine and William facilitate this event with our youth, where they learned about design thinking and participate in a case challenge. And we also did a summer personal development program through the Government of Canada's Rising Youth Program. And then later that summer was when we were approved with the Ontario Trillium Foundation to run a now 20-week program. And so we are doing a series of workshops around arts and technology. And we also incorporated a mentorship program. So youth are now getting guidance and support with their personal goals. And through this program, we're also working on a project with Francis for the Multicultural Inventors Museum. And so recently we did a focus group with our youth, and I just want to share two quotes from our focus group. And some of the youth said that so far the program has encouraged them to explore more STEM-based opportunities and not be limited to thinking it's a lot about just the sciences and math that we learn at school. It helps us to think about our goals and our future, explore what we want and act on it, and gives us the space and knowledge and equipment to act on it. And another youth had said, I learned to finally create personal goals that don't concern my studies in my group. Every week, my mentor would hold us to some goals, and by the next session, we'd hopefully achieve those small goals. And we are currently wrapping up this program, but in the future, so in the summer, we hope to do the Innovation Day event again, hopefully. And also we want to develop some programming around just that transitional support from high school to college or university. And so we want to do some research and use that to develop a boot camp program. And that's it. Thank you.
Amazing. That was great. Thank you so much. Again, all of the presenters so far, that is just amazing. As you can see, for the participants that are listening in, we've got some great work happening. A lot of organizations are really pouring into this movement. So next, we have the Black Boys Code, and you may or may not have heard of this organization, but a lot of good work is happening here. This is actually nationwide. So I'm going to look to Jason to see if he's ready to present his slides. Are you ready, Jason?
I'm ready.
Great, it's all yours.
So I'm here and I'm honored to be a part of this amazing panel of great work, a great body of work here. And at Black Boys Code, tell you a little bit about me first. I've been in the software industry for about 20 years. I'm a software engineer. I've held many different roles. And we, especially me, have seen the sparse representation from Black individuals in tech. And so I went out to look to find an organization that I could partner with to be able to give back. And I found Black Boys Code. At the time, there was only 2 chapters that was very active. And now we have several chapters. We're up to about 7 chapters across Canada. And our goal is to empower young Black men through technology. So at Black Boy Code, we intend to inspire young Black men of color to find their confidence and realize that this is an industry that they can participate in and realize that it exists. Next slide. So Black Boys Code is a non-for-profit. We're dedicated to introducing young Black boys of color to computer science through exposure workshops, hackathon after-school programs, and summer programs. And introduction is a key word here. When I became involved in technology, it was purely by accident. My sister, who had came to Canada before myself, she's an accountant, and I was about to come to Canada, and she said, hey, why don't you look into this technology thing? I think it's going to blow up. I think it's going to be really important. And my sister is one person that I trust without thinking about it. So I said, okay. And I looked into it, and one of the best things that ever happened to me. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even know that this existed. And I think this is true for a lot of other young Black men out there and women who don't even know that this exists. So Black Boys Code is here to introduce, inspire, and hopefully spark something in our youth to know that this is an avenue that they can take. Next slide. So simply put, what we want to do, we want to expose these boys to the avenue that exists and an option that they can take. And we have a group of professionals who are in tech that can inspire them and show them a sign, a symbol for what they could be like, an example that they can fit within the space. And we're hoping that will then transform them into being a participant of this future.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Again, being a mother of a Black boy, I just love the fact that you have a strong presence with our young men. And again, I appreciate your work. So I'm going to pass it on to our next speaker. So Roxanne, are you ready to present?
Yes, I'm ready to present.
Great. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roxanne Challenger, and I'm from Challenger Consultant and Associates, which basically is doing a lot of, within the Black community, I'm doing a lot of consulting and helping building up people with capacity. Just within this past last year, I formed a partnership with NFTE, which is the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And basically the goal for NFTE is to educate educators and people in the community, and then to help them foster or ignite entrepreneurship mindset to the next generation, especially going forward now where a lot of the jobs for the future, we don't even know what they're going to be, but they do know a lot of them will have to be with working styles of entrepreneurs, project-based, and those type of things. So the goal basically is to help a lot of people a lot of times in communities that don't have access to getting these types of programming or access to employers or networks or access to learning about those skills. So focusing on more on lower income areas, but basically to help everybody so that, you know, we can close that racial gap. I don't know if you want to go next slide. And so NFTE, when you come in, they have an entrepreneurial path. So one is like with the Teachers Corp, which is basically what I was a little bit talking about, is the train the trainer model. And basically they would have, it's a 4-day training, which you would be speaking by other educators that have gone through it, and industry people and different people that are community people that would come and teach educators in the community about entrepreneurship. What's great about the program that we have is even if you're not an entrepreneur, but we provide a learning system in the back end that you can incorporate into your classroom, or we have where you can basically have a whole curriculum built out for you. So what it is we want to help educators or people within the community to make sure the information is being passed on to the next generation. It is a 4-day training. There's only opportunities by lead teachers and master educators that have gone through this. There's recognition incentives for teachers, and there's a national summit conference that happens. And NFTE also too is just about awareness, exposure. Sorry, okay, so we'll go to that. And then the other thing that we have is basically NFTE Youth Challenge. So this is something that I'm looking to implement hopefully by next year. And what it is it's based off the UN sustainability goals. Well, so what they would have to do is pick one of the challenges, and from the challenges, they would either create a solution that they think that could help, or create a solution or something along those lines where it's to help them with the entrepreneur, and then present it and then they're just presented in a video, and then there's also the regroup, and then after the challenge, there would be a main event where everybody would come together, and then they would be picked. Someone would be picked for that, and the winner usually would go to New York from high schools.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much, Roxanne. You are doing some great work. You've been doing this for 20 years, like many of the speakers. So I'm really excited to partner with you. Next, we have Tech Spark. So Alicia Campbell is going to present these slides. Alicia, are you ready?
I am.
Great. It's all yours.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having myself and Tech Spark be represented here. It's been such an honor to be amongst such great organizations that are really moving the needle within STEM education for our Black youth, because that is so critical and that is so important for our communities and the future of our environments. So I am the Director of Operations for TechSpark Canada, and TechSpark is Canada's first technology and curriculum design school committed to empowering students and teachers through culturally relevant and equitable tech education. We specialize in creating, building, and revising inquiry-based, student-centered K-12 STEM curricula through the lens of empathy, cultural relevance, and social justice. We equip Canadian teachers with unconventional resources and supports so that they can better serve racially and linguistically diverse students. We have a philosophy of purposeful and meaningful disruption of the education status quo, and we aim to increase engagement, content retention, and enhance the rigor of each student that we serve. So our impact, since our inception of TechSpark, we have impacted the lives of over 15,000 students and have helped over 60,000 teachers in the Greater Toronto Area, Durham, and Peel region. And as you can see, majority of our impact is within our Afro-Caribbean descent, and that we do have a really strong gender split between girls and boys. And it's so important that, especially with our girls demographic, that we're continuing to help them find courage, confidence, and personality that will allow them to identify their identity, who they are, and how they can impact the world of technology through STEM education. Next slide. So right now we are currently piloting a great new program called a TechSpark Forward, which is a private school experience for public school students. So it's a national virtual entrepreneurship education academy that serves Black high school students and young adults through specialized curriculum, mentorship, and companies for capital investment. So our virtual school enables Black youth from the ages of 17 to 24 to reevaluate product sales and marketing strategies and prepare for investment pitches. It's a 10-week intensive course that once high school students complete will have an accredited course curriculum for their high school diploma. We have partnered with amazing tech organizations to build this program, such as Shopify, RBC, and TikTok Canada. And so we have hopes and goals that this program will be a one-of-a-kind designed experience for Black students and youth all over Canada. It's currently being piloted in 2 high schools at the moment in Ajax, and we are going to be rolling this out nationally going into 2022. And we're hopes that within 2 years, we'll be able to serve over 70,000 students through the help and support of 2,000 teachers. And that's it for us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alicia. That is great work. Thank you to all of the speakers. So we're not finished, but the good news is we are on time. So this event started on time, and Alicia stopped right on time, and we're just going to move into the next segment of the agenda. We have a powerful message from our Toronto mayor, and he is also very passionate about our Black youth. So I'm going to move ahead and I'm going to play this video and enjoy.
Hi, Mayor John Tory here with a message of congratulations and encouragement to the BYTES Network on the occasion of its inaugural event. You know, if the most diverse city in the world is to become the most inclusive city in the world, then the challenge of including Black youth in technology, engineering, and science is one we have to take on together. Yes, that will involve setting goals and making a special effort to reach out and to recruit. But it will also involve networking and encouragement within the community, and BYTES is all about that. Much of the future opportunity in our great city will lie in fields like engineering, technology, and science. Young Black women and men deserve to take their place in those fields, and we will be more successful overall as a result. It is not someone else's job to make that inclusion a reality. It is our job, all of us. I am an ally, and I look forward to working with you and with BYTES to make that happen. And for that matter, after that, let's have bylaw, which is about doing the same thing in law for Black youth. And then maybe we could have ByBiz and do the same thing in business. But for now, BYTES is happening, and I want it to be a great success, and I wish you very well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Awesome. So we're going to continue with our program. And what we're going to move into now is a panelist discussion. So I'm going to ask all of my speakers if you can come on camera, the ones who are going to be part of this panelist discussion, especially Dr. Carl James. Dr. Carl James did not get a chance to present as yet, but he is really one of the key persons that started this movement. With his research, it's really triggered a lot of momentum in this space. So I'm actually going to ask him to answer the first panelist question. So Dr. Carl James, I hope you are ready. My first question to the panelist is, what motivated you to get involved in serving Black youth in your community?
This was many years ago, and of course, at that time we were observing the high rates of schools being, of Black youth being childed into academic programs or non-academic programs in school. And of course, I was paying attention to the research. At that time, Toronto School Board putting out data about the Black youth, and that was not really encouraging. And we know that many of these Black youth were of immigrant background. Immigrant parents came to Toronto with the high expectations for their children. And insofar as that high expectation weren't being realized, the data was showing that that was not being realized. Of course, it cannot be because of the youth, it's not because of the parents, but because of something else. So my interest is always looking at the system and the conditions in which these young people exist in the system in order to assess what's happening with them. Hence, my work has always been to encourage and look at the education, but not look at education individually, but look at the education in relation to what are the conditions under which students are going to school, what is the curriculum that they're experiencing. And another thing too is what the idea that they might be interested in sports, but why sports might be limited in terms of how they're being encouraged to get into other aspects of education. Not that sports could not, sports can, and it could be useful for them, but we just do not, but the way in which sometimes this operates might not be necessarily one of the most exciting in terms of their educational outcomes. So that has informed and influenced much of the work that I've been doing from very early with these youth. And not to think of it's about them, but also looking at the system and the society generally and how they've been constructed and thought of as possibilities of success.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Carl James. The next person that I would like to answer this question is Alicia from TechSpark, because my understanding is you recently was approved for some great funding. And so I wanted to know what really motivated you to get involved, Alicia, because we know that it's a tough road. I don't know if you're still on the call. Alicia, are you still here?
I am.
Do you mind answering this question for me, please?
Of course. So for myself, getting involved with TechSpark, I really saw a need as our programs were getting larger within the schools to really find Black men and women educators to execute our coding and UX design programs within the grade schools. And so my role originally started off as helping to find and recruit educators, and my passion for TechSpark just continued to grow. And here I am 3 years later, because I'm seeing the need and I'm seeing the result of the programs and the impact that they have on our youth and on our communities. We keep in touch with a lot of our students. We send out surveys. They are now going into post-secondary programs that are in technology and in science, and they're learning about applications and building new programs that I know when I was up and coming in school weren't even, in my mind at the time. So it's just so incredible to see the impact and continuing to see myself in the work that I do and to see the impact and knowing that it's not just going to help this generation, but the generation for years to come. It just allows me to continue to want to do bigger and better things with TechSpark and to partner with greater organizations that are on this call, because we are making a change, we are making a difference, and that's what's most important.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, Alicia. Next, I would actually like Lisa Cole to answer this question. Lisa, do you mind answering the question? I really want to know your personal story as to why you want to contribute to Black youth in STEM.
Yes, because I'm actually Korean. So in this work, I think sometimes we leave the work to the group of people that the work is intended for, which is so strange, right? So I often get this question and what drives me. I'm actually quite committed to ensuring that students have equitable opportunities. I come from education. And, when we say that, what does it mean to have equitable opportunities? It actually requires for students to have choice. But if you think about choice, how do you make a choice if you've never had an opportunity to even explore the potential of what might actually spark interest? So it's sort of a conundrum, right? And I think that's the sticky question for me that has sort of traveled with me as I, navigated working in the education system. So, I fell into teaching. I fell into loving physics. It wasn't really my subject, my favorite subject in my high school experience. I think that sometimes I think about chance, right? Like the chance in falling into something and then seeing and realizing that you enjoy it. And I felt like my career has always been about chance. I happened to meet the right person at the right time, or I happened to have a aha moment at the right time. And I wonder about our students and families where, maybe chance is never actually happens for a variety of reasons, and how that actually prevents certain people to not ever have opportunities to discover. And I, from my teaching experience, I could actually count on my hands how many Black students I've taught in grade 12 physics.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reflecting on my own educational journey as I was preparing for this conversation, and I have not had a single Black teacher in all of my education.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is true for me, what would it feel like for someone where they need to, see themselves in their exploration and learning journey? So, I come from K-12 education, classroom teacher for 14 years, school board curriculum lead, and recently, before joining Lassonde, was an education officer at the Ministry of Education. And I'm going to say inequities and systemic barriers to access are real, right? We don't, it exists. We need to own that. Diversity is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, we need to do something about it. And I think that for me, that question has always traveled with me, and we're still in the same place that I feel like I started my education.
Thank you
journey.
Thank you so much for your transparency, Lisa. I really appreciate what you said, and it's powerful. It's powerful. Thank you. We're going to move along to the next question. So what steps did you take to get involved? I'm going to look for maybe Cheryl Lewis. Do you mind answering this question for us, please?
Absolutely not. That's a good question. Just to give you a bit of a background where I came from, I was working at a restorative justice program, and it was like a school to prison pipeline. and seeing all the young people who were kicked out of school and end up in the judicial system, and then after suspension and expulsion, they end up back there because they are trespassing on school property. So we were just looking for equitable spaces to help these young people because we realized they're facing barriers to success. So just that whole need about what was happening to our young people and all of the negative stereotyping, we decided, you know what, we need to put some supports in there for some of these young people. We've been able to amass a number of mentors to help them along. So we started looking at what was happening in the school system and the underrepresentation, and we decided there's no way we can sit back and not do anything. How do we create, as Lisa talked about, the equitable space, which is so different from an equal position. So providing the steps they need to get to that same spot so they can have the same opportunity as the rest of the society around them. So we have been working on, as I said, we work on educational programs and get them into spaces where to say you belong. And when we realized that with the lack of representation in STEM, we decided we just couldn't let it happen again. So we have to do something. We can't help everyone, but as much as we can. So we have opened up to robotics. So the step was, you know, here is a come build a robot. And most kids didn't know, what do you mean come build a robot? So they have been so inspired by what they've learned, teaching them critical thinking, teaching them apart from mechanical and electrical and the technical skills, the soft skills in building their self-esteem, and also to building their capacity. And so apart from the robotics, when we realized it wasn't happening, coding, like the Black Boys Code, we realized that some of these students don't even know, and geez, what do you mean I want to get involved in coding? But once they have seen what they can do, it has increased their capacity as well and their curiosity for moving on. So it's about giving them the opportunity, providing the equitable spaces for them, and also to just say, you belong in these spaces. So we have partnered with York University, Elisa would know that, and we're working with them to help them. And when they get onto the spaces and when they are there, it's that their eyeballs open like golf balls. You know, I can be here, I belong here. And they're inspired to move on to post-secondary education. And that's what we want to know, that they graduate and they move on to post-secondary studies. So I think, you know, we've moved the needle in a number of ways in getting them involved in some of these spaces. And we're quite pleased.
Great. That is awesome, Cheryl. That's great work. Again, very excited to hear from each and every speaker here. The next person I'd like to answer this question would be Irene. You being a very young person, at least compared to me, I wanted to know from your perspective, how does a young person or even an average person make steps to get involved? Because I think you're really driving from a leadership perspective, right? Some of us are joining other organizations, but I believe you started yours from the ground up. So Irene, I'd like to hear from you on what steps you took to get involved.
Yeah, so a lot of, I guess, my motivation to start this was based on my personal experiences. And so when I was thinking about getting this started, I just thought back to my high school experiences, and then I went back to my high school essentially. So I went to Father Henry Carr, which is why in the beginning I'd mentioned that our work was focused in Etobicoke because I just started where my high school was. And so I went back to the high school. Fortunately, there were still the same guidance counselors, some of the same teachers that were still there. So I had already had connections with them. And so I just kind of shared my experiences and like what I wanted to do and kind of the changes I wanted to see. And then they kind of gathered some students for me. And I went in there a few times, had conversations with the youth just to kind of see if this is something that they would want. How they want it to look like. And then through that, I remember we wanted to do it at the high school, but there was a lot of process to securing space in the high school. So I remember we connected with the YMCA because a lot of the youth mentioned that they always go to the YMCA. And so the YMCA had offered us the space for free as well. And so we had a lot of community support. And I think it's because it was my community. And so I just kind of started there, and then things kind of snowballed. I got some friends that also went to Henry Carr who assisted in planning the program and executing it. And then just from there, it picked up.
Fantastic. That is great. So hopefully some of our participants are listening to the steps you took, and they can also apply it to their own journey. So that's great. And quickly, I wanted to ask Dr. Carl James, you did a lot of the research that, again, We Rise Together committee, which is a committee that yourself and myself are on. Your research was used to really form the foundation for that movement. So I wanted to know, as a researcher, what steps did you take? Did you just use your own tools? Did you reach out to another organization? But what steps did you take, Dr. Carl James, to start that research? Because there's many of us that want to start to look at more research because we know it's not readily available. So I'd really like to hear from you on what steps you took personally to get the research going.
I also think there are lots of programs that have been done that we continue to do as Black service providers with Black youth, and we have done them, and we have put lots of funding and so forth into the program activities. But and then when it's done, we just go look for other funding and continue. And sometimes there's no evidence of, did it work, did it not work? What did we get out of it? What might we change if we go do it differently, etc. And how do we go and say that this is what we did, this is the information we got out of it, and therefore this is what the funding that you gave us might be used to enable and support the program more, or this is what your funding has enabled. So for me, I'm always interested in knowing that people connect research with their projects. Data gathering is absolutely critical from my perspective because it enables us to be able to say how much it's working or not working, or even sell the idea to others to say, if you do it this way, this is what the results could be or might be, or this is some of the adjustments you might make if you do it this way, etc. So from my perspective, as somebody who worked in the university and do research, I will connect with organizations and encourage and support the idea of research, and also get the necessary kind of funding in order to enable that to happen.
So it sounds like when your personal step and your personal journey, you applied for funding to do the research that you needed to do?
Yes.
Perfect.
And because I also work in university, and there is funds there, and and the idea of doing research in order to be able to continue to get the kinds of information you need to be able to build the kinds of program you need. So yes.
So I think I also heard you say that you would help organizations within the BYTES Network with their journey for collecting research or finding the right terms in order to get a research, to fund their research project. Did I hear you say that? Or am I putting words in your mouth?
Yeah, I totally think that I would always encourage one doing any work should also connect research with it. And sometimes research doesn't have to be an outsider coming in. You could always build research into the program. And yes, it'd be easy to have conversations about how you might build research into the program you're doing.
That's great. Even things like surveys or doing your own working sessions to gather research. It sounds like that's really key for obtaining funding. So that's really good to know. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move on to the next question. So the next question here, question number 3, if you have received funding to support your initiative, what do you think was the key to receiving approval? Now, we talked about the research, but I'm going to ask Jason from Black Boys Code if he can take himself off mute and if he can answer this question for us.
Yeah, I would love to. So we have received funding from the government of Canada, and I'd say there's 2 key factors that helped us gain that. The first is based on a strong application. And so your application has to be done in a way that caters to the language and structure that they're looking for. And so one way to get that right is to partner with someone who has done this type of thing before, and or someone who have expertise in preparing these documents. And that will increase your success rate tremendously, because when they receive it, they are looking for certain key factors. And once you have those key factors, it helps you go forward. Now, the second thing that helps us is that before we applied, we already had a working group going and affecting boys already. So we had a unique product or offering or service that they could see and we could point to and say, this is what we're doing, and we need funding to continue to do this work and expand. So I think those two key factors are things that we should look at to be able to be successful in gaining funding.
That's great. That's amazing. Thank you very much for that, Jason. That's awesome. The next person I would like to answer this question would be Alicia. Alicia, I heard through the grapevine that you've been able to get some great funding. So I'm hoping that you are ready to answer this question for us as well. Do you mind taking yourself off mute?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the key to being successful in funding is really being able to demonstrate the story of the issue that you're addressing and the opportunity that you as a non-for-profit or a community organization is fulfilling, and really how the funding is a bridge to really connect the two. So really helping to understand using metrics, data, research, what the problem is and why it's a problem that this organization, government agency, or a group within the agency cares about, because it ties back to their initiative and what they're hoping to fulfill for their own mandate. And so when you're able to create that connectivity, that's going to be really important, because then you're going to be speaking your story in their language and really helping them see, okay, by us helping this group, they're going to be essentially helping our entire mandate and goal that we're trying to fulfill. So I think it's really important to be able to narrate and really craft that story for them to make that connection very, very strong. And then I think second to that is understanding that various people are going to be reading the grant. There's usually a panel of reviewers. They may have different perspectives, different insights and knowledge that they themselves need to feel connected to as well. So when you're writing from your perspective as a non-for-profit or community organization, it's important that you try to be as widespread in, so that when you're writing out the grant, you're saying a point or two that should connect with, the spectrum of different backgrounds on the panel. So talking about community, talking about culture, diversity, equity, students, youth, talking about how youth will be growing up and they themselves will need more support, or will need to have good jobs and find different opportunities, and what that whole life cycle looks like. If it's talking about how we're increasing education, so people who are very passionate about education and curriculum are understanding that this ties into that too. So talking about solving their problem from different angles and looping in other community members and leaders or organizations and making that end goal and overarching perspective come to life, very, very important. And so being able to articulate that clearly and with the right intention is challenging. But once you've either brought in an outside consultant or written enough of these, as myself and Tamar Huggins, our executive director, have done, you start to really get a sense of a framework that you work within that helps you kind of guide your thoughts and processes to articulate that properly.
That's great. That was very insightful. Thank you so much. And very detailed. Love it. Love it. Last but not least, Roxanne Challenger, I'm going to ask her to answer this question, because in Roxanne's role, as she said earlier, she has a lot of programs that she runs, but she also has a lot of experience in looking for funding and knowing how to apply for funding and grants. lots of experience there. She's also consulting in that area. So Roxanne, do you mind coming off of mute and answering this question for me?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a couple, like everybody said, I agree with what everybody else is saying, some of the information about when you are applying for grants. One thing is to do is also connect with your local MP. You should let them know what you're doing locally. Most of the times when funding comes in, they find out first if you've been approved. So it would be good to start connecting them, talking to them about what you want to do, making that relationship, making them be the voice for you when they go back to Parliament. That is one way. The other thing is too, with the proposals, also making sure that you have also the capacity. Sometimes we have really great ideas, but showing funders that you have the capacity to execute and to implement and make an impact into the community is very important. A lot of times within our community, capacity is a very big issue. And
can you elaborate? Sorry, can you elaborate on what you mean by capacity? Just in this space, some people may not understand exactly, what that means.
Yeah, sure. So some of the stuff would be like making sure that we're set up correctly. Like if we have all of our boards, all of our staff, when we're writing in the proposals, we're putting in the proper wages. Sometimes I find a lot of times in organizations, they will put money into the program and then they don't pay what they're worth. So we have to start looking at our value when we are putting stuff in so that we can do the work and we're getting paid to do the work, and who you're hiring is getting paid to able to do the work too. And that can create sustainability. Because one thing what the funders also do after a while, and some of you that have gotten funding already, once you show that you have the capacity, you have your financial statements in order, if you've been audited, it takes you to another level. So then if you're starting to get into the millions, then there's going to be higher monitoring, higher expectations, and delivery. But if you do it well, funders will come to you, and you won't have to be looking for funding so much. They'll start asking you because they know that you'll be able to deliver and you'll be able to provide the information that they're looking for. So that is one way of capacity. And as a community, we just need to make sure you put down what we're worth. If you're putting in a budget, because I'll tell you, mainstream is doing that. And that's why a lot of times that they're growing, because they put down the salary, the wages, they fight for that. And then they add, and then they justify saying, basically, we can't do the work if we don't have this amount of money. And so that's something that I would always make sure when you are talking to a funder, and when you are doing your reports back, just add in extra stuff that you see. If you're looking for a need, add that extra information into the report. And then it's some ways where you can expand on funding, or they'll give you extra funding because there is a need. Even though when your contract's ending, never always just get from a funder that if it's done. You can always ask a question, make justifications, adding extra information. Because I think, like what Carl James was saying, they're always looking for research. So if they find that you're doing some research and then there's a need and there's a gap, then they will say, okay, let's try that. And then and they may be able to fund you as a pilot project or expand or keep your program going. I've had programs that were supposed to end like March 31st, and then we got an extra year or extra 2 years. So it's stuff like that. So the capacity part is very important. So if you do get funding, it's very important to think long-term and how I'm going to expand that. Sometimes you might have to make sacrifices just to think for the bigger, like, okay, I may not have got all the funding, but how can I make this funding grow? Not just the project's done and then I'm looking, or leverage the funding that you get to help you with that. So, especially if you're nonprofit, go to corporate companies, see what they're doing. Right now, we're in pilot zone. So there's a lot of money being given out because of COVID, they don't know how the future is going to be. So there's going to be monies being given out for pilot testing. And after that testing, then they're going to make about, say, 2022 or 2023, they're going to start putting out funding, what type of funding will be for the next couple of years. So we're in a testing mode. So right now it's a good opportunity to get funding, do the testing, and then that would be a good way for like long-term. But make sure you have your financial statements when you're doing the money you're delivering. Another tip is that they're watching if you have your budgets. You should spend your budgets each month. Whatever you gave them of cash flow, which would be what your forecast of money and how you would use it each month. Make sure you spend it within that month. If you don't, then they realize you're not using the money, or it's carrying over. So then the funder looks to say, well, you don't need that. And so we'll take that money away because obviously you're not using within that month. And so try not to spend it all at the end of March when they know that you've had the money. That sends signals, right? It also sends signals if you're holding the money, because then they might think, are you collecting interest on the money? So there's things that you have to be aware of when you are doing your funding for long-term, because then the project officer is responsible too. So building a great relationship, and when they see that you start to understand the program you're trying, it will take you a longer way. So those are some of the things, and just showing that you're capable and that you're able to do it, and showing if you've done stuff before, how much money you've gotten before. And you can take something little just and build up. But
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was so great. That was very insightful. Thank you so much for that, Roxanne. We are starting to get to the end of our event. I did want to speak out to the mentors that are on the call. We talked a lot about funding and really a lot of support around the organizations, but mentorship is also something that is a need. So I just wanted to put a little commercial in there for you to look at some of the presenters today. If there is an organization that you're interested in joining up with, this is an opportunity. I'm also going to pass it on to my colleague, Marguerite Fleming, who's going to wrap up the end of this session with some key call to action items. So it's also going to help you or participants on the call, as well as our speakers, to stay connected with the BYTES Network. At any time, any given time, any one of our speakers may have a need, and it'd be really great if we can retain that information. So I'm going to pass it on to Marguerite. Are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be. Yes, absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you to all our speakers. You are inspirational. You're doing incredible work, and we know it comes with great sacrifice, and you're doing it for our kids, and we're just so grateful, not only for my children who are benefiting from some of these programs, but also for the kids coming behind us, right? So as we go forward, and as we're looking at, this is our grand launch and what we're doing next with BYTES, we just want to spend a couple of minutes asking you a couple of questions because we are thinking we have a couple of projects that we would like to put out over this next year, and we certainly would like to get your feedback on some of that. So the first, if you wouldn't mind answering these questions, I think they just popped up for you. How do you feel about the programs that you have seen, the programs that you know? Are they sufficient enough to support our Black students? If you are an owner or a part owner of a community organization, what are you focused in on? And third, if you are the owner or focused on Black youth, what's your most important need, and how could we support you with this network? So if you wouldn't mind just spend a minute doing that, and we'll get those results, and we'll certainly use that as part of our analysis as we go forward, as well as an organization. So I think that's out to everybody, right, Christine?
Yes, I've allowed the panelists, the speakers to also participate in the polling.
Oh, nice. All
yes.
Right then.
And let me know when you want me to end the polling, Marguerite, and then we can look at the results.
Absolutely. Okay, does anybody need more time? I can't see anybody else, so why don't we just give like 10 more seconds and then we'll close it up. 3, 2, 1. Okay, close it up for us. Let me see the results. Okay. So there's a number of organizations, right? Well, I would agree with you. So partnership with other organizations is number one, which is really interesting to us. And that's really one of the mandates of the BYTES Network, is to create these networking opportunities. There is power in and around this table. Okay, even from the panelists, you can see that there's opportunities to partner, and there's opportunities to you know, use each other's strengths going forward. So we're excited with that. We are going to continue with that into the new year. So I encourage everyone who's on the call to please go to our website at bytesnetwork.org and register with us on the website. We're going to be sending out email on a regular basis. Part of our mandate, as Christine said earlier, is to be a repository for all of the great activity that's happening in and around. I mean, we're all, most of us are focused around the Greater Toronto Area, but this is a big country, and there are a lot of activities going on even within the Greater Toronto Area that most people don't know about. You know, we want to make as many people aware of it. So that was one of the big needs that we heard, is from parents and students saying, I didn't know that those opportunities existed, right? If I'd known about it, maybe I would have. Some people didn't know, if they were interested in medicine, that, you know, Sick Kids Hospital does internships every summer, right? Not everybody knows that. And so we want to make sure that every kid gets an opportunity to be participating in any project based on their interest and background. And that's registering as part of the network will help us to be able to do that. And also there will be a post-event survey. So we just want to say thank you. I'm going to close off on behalf of the board of BYTES and say thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, panelists, for sharing. You know, you're inspirational. Everyone has worked so hard in this community for our kids, and that is going to have a long-term benefit. So we're grateful for you, and we look forward to our next time getting together, hopefully in person. Wouldn't that be nice, right? Thanks, Christine. And also lastly, I want to say thanks to Christine for putting this event together. She worked very hard behind the scenes, and we're very grateful. Thank you very much, Christine.
Christine is awesome.
You are welcome.
Yes,
thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For a greater tomorrow for our youth. Very excited. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you.
We'll meet
guys.
again.
We will. In person, hopefully.
In person, hopefully.
Thank you. Take care,
That's great.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.